Okay.
So let's jump into that. Talking about man to man, right? So man to man, the number 2,
Right.
I think it's important. man2man.org is the website, number 2, because people are like, I don't know how to find it, right? And it brings up some crazy stuff, but it's okay.
And just a caveat.
It's number 2.
Caveat.
Yeah.
And is there may be some things that pop up you're not gonna like.
If you put in the wrong thing,
Right.
just type.
And even if you
man,
put in the right thing,
the number 2 man.org and go, and you're fine. You don't have to Google it. Just put it in there and go. It's easy.
Right.
We all are get to this point where we should be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, this happened fast. I feel like it happened fast over the course of the last 30 years.
Okay,
I'll put it that way.
Explain
right?
that.
So here's what happened: is we are at Honey Rock Basic, right? And
which is Wild at Hearts.
And I'm Wild at Heart Basic, and we're at Honey Rock, which is the camp we're at, which is a fantastic new song that's out, by the way. I don't know if you have heard that song, Honey in the Rock. Fantastic new song, by the way.
Okay.
Just incredible. If you Google it, you'll figure it out. But anyways,
that's another one to be careful. Honey in the
yeah, don't maybe don't Google that.
Okay.
Look it up on your music stuff. It's Brandon Lake, and he's my favorite right now. Like that guy just jams. And so we're at Honey Rock, and I'm a hot mess. Like I'm a snot,
balling,
like not okay. I'm not okay. Like I'm feeling like I maybe should leave. Like that's where I was at. I don't know if I can do this. Like this is a lot. And
well, you're also in a very tough season of your life.
For sure, yeah. And I'm getting torn apart from the inside out, and I'm at a point where I have to make a decision. Am I okay with this and continue on, or like I don't know if I have to make a decision at this point. And I look over at you, and you look over at me, and you have like face beat red. Your eyes are all red, and you go. You said something along the lines of me, like I've always known that this is who I was supposed to be, but I haven't been living as that person for the last 20 years, and I'm so mad at myself.
Yeah.
What, to me, like that is where Man to Man was born. Like this popped out, and that, like, what is it that you were feeling at that moment?
Well, it's, I've been discipling, mentoring men, putting on men's events,
27 years.
For 27 years. And in the beginning, it was with teenagers, with teenage kids and teenage guys, and it transformed over about a 15-year period to more young adult men, and then it just became more adult men.
Right.
And but I've always wondered, I only did the events. I do the events, but then I'd mentor, and God kept bringing me guys to mentor and disciple, and so basically what happened, I'll tell you, hopefully I don't start snot balling again, but basically what happened was there was a part in the video that John talks about, that God's got a calling on every man's life, and he wants you to go out and he wants you to ask God a couple questions and have him answer. And I sat out there at that lake, and I'm like, okay, God, I need to know. I need to know what it is. I'm in the second half of my life, and I want to finish well. And so I need to know what it is. So, like, you got to part the water. You got to make the cloud form a word.
Do something.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to mess around anymore.
Right.
I mean, if you got to slap me like spiritually, but it hurts my face, I don't care. Do something. And for an hour, I got absolutely nothing.
Man, how hard is that to go for an hour for 61 minutes at that point?
Yeah.
60 minutes of nothing.
Yeah.
That's 61st minute. How many guys don't? I mean, I can tell you, like, I know there are many times in my life I don't make it to 30 minutes.
No, I don't make it to 3 sometimes.
Yeah.
Right, sometimes. But so after an hour, we had to go to the next session.
Yeah.
And I came back into the next session, and I was discouraged. I was like, I really wanted to hear God in a significant way, like I've never heard him before. And so then John comes out and he opens up with that clip from Gladiator.
Yep.
And if you've never seen the movie Gladiator, if you haven't, it's a great movie. But Commodus is, I'm sorry, not Commodus, but what's his name in the movie? Okay, I'm lost.
Gladiator guy?
Yeah, Gladiator guy.
Yeah,
Gladiator guy. He's in the Colosseum and he's fighting.
Maximus.
Maximus is going to fight Commodus,
yeah.
and he's in the arena, and he ends up, if you watch the movie, he ends up, maybe I shouldn't tell you what happens, but anyways.
Spoiler alert, this movie was from the 2000s,
Yeah,
so if you
long
haven't
time.
seen it now. Like,
So anyways, but he ends up killing Commodus, and I'm watching this, and then, but at the same time, I haven't left the lake. At the same time, I'm still thinking, I'm still trying to listen to God. I'm still trying to, God, say something. And then all of a sudden, after he kills Commodus, his lieutenant, says, Maximus. And Maximus he was checking out, he was dying. He from a stab wound, and he was dying, but he was falling, fell back into the reel, and he looks at his lieutenant, and he says, free my men.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that happened, my entire body got hot. I'm like, that's it. And I really felt, I heard God like I never heard him before. Said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to be a vessel that I can use that helps men be set free from this world, to entrap them, where they can't live life anymore, where they've lost their masculinity. I want you to spend the second half doing that. And he said, you've been chasing the wrong thing for 15 years. And that was, to be truthfully honest with you, that was a pastoral role at a church. I thought that was what I was supposed to do, and do the man stuff on the side.
Right.
And so for 15 years, I've been chasing the wrong thing. And I know what it is now. Right. And so that was the pinnacle, like you say. That was 27 to 30 years of mentoring, discipling, and putting on events. But it all came to culmination at that one event at Basic, where God specifically said, no, I want you to be an oracle that I can use, a person that I can use to help men be set free from this world.
So it's so amazing how that event brought all the pieces together, right?
Yeah.
Like, it just, God was moving things that just happened at this event. I mean, it didn't just happen. Obviously, God is very good at making plans, right? But the way that he interacted with everyone individually there, but also bringing together this band of people to make this man-to-man thing happen. Like, he literally brought together this group at that retreat while working on each of us in individual things that we were doing.
Right. Yep.
So we would come to each other, and I'm thinking, man, I'm going through this personal, deeply, only me, introspective moment in my life, and I would say something to you, and you're like, yeah, and you would say something back to me, and I'm like, holy crap, these things fit together in some randomly odd way to me at that time.
Yeah.
But, and then, and Mick, the same thing, he would come over and he'd be like, guys, I don't know what's going on, but God's talking to me about this. And we're like, well, join the group, man. Come on in. It's clear that all of this is working, right? I mean, it was crazy how that sort of came together in that one retreat.
And it was interesting because I've been doing guys events for so long, and I remember when John Elder's book first came out, and I took you and 12 other teenage guys, we went through it when it first came out. And literally, to be honest with you, I was going to the Basic event to go kind of see how John does it. Yep. This last year, I was kind of like, I'm gonna check it out, see how he does it. See kind of what he says. I wasn't going there to get change, because I don't need change.
I'm doing it for 27 years.
I've got it. Frick. So that's what I went into it thinking, and by the second session, I was toast, like you. I was red faced, snot balling, crying, and hearing God like I'd never heard him before. So.
And so that birthed this man-to-man movement, right? And what I think happened to me is it put a definition on what I was seeing, right? I knew what I was seeing in the world with men, right? I knew what I was seeing, but I didn't know how to define it. I didn't know how to talk about it, right? And so what I saw was the definition of men and the way that we're told we're supposed to be, right? Be, that what John says in the Basic thing, right? You're supposed to be this nice guy, right? You're supposed to be a nice guy. You're supposed to be kind of fluffy, but a little bit edgy, right? I mean, enough to be able to open a jar, but not so much to be able to, use a power hammer, right? We're supposed to be nice. We're supposed to be calm and collected all the time. You're supposed to, here's the one that gets me, right? And this is what really got to me, is you're supposed to have all the answers, As a guy, you're supposed to have all the answers, but not always answer the question.
Right.
Because if you answer all the questions, then you're overstepping your bounds. But you need to have all the answers because you're the guy. So you're the man. You're supposed to have the answers. I don't have all the answers.
Right.
Like as a guy, I was looking around and I was going like, I know a whole lot of guys. None of them have all the answers. But we're all sitting in the corner going, I'm supposed to have the answers. So
it's supposed to be doing something.
So if I let somebody else know that I don't have the answers, what does that make me?
Right.
It makes me a failure as a man. It makes me less of a man. It makes me, how, and that's what I saw. And this experience put a definition on that for me, like a definition of it's wrong.
Right.
This is not how we are supposed to be working with each other. We are supposed to be able to bounce off of each other. We are supposed to come together and figure this thing out. And but that's not what we're taught. It's not what we're told. And so,
that's the tough thing is what I think every one of us men battle.
Right.
Is the fact of that we see it happening around us, but it's also happening to us.
Mm-hmm.
We know it is, but we don't want to accept it.
Right.
I don't want to be that. What John says, I don't want to be John says, the nice guy. In other words, when you die, they said, man, he's a really good guy and he cooked great waffles.
Right. Yeah.
That's not how I want to end. I don't want that to be. I don't want to be known for cooking great waffles. My wife cooks great waffles, but
yeah, she does.
But and I can cook great waffles. But the point is that there's got to be something more.
Right.
And that's what is being. That is what is being stolen. That is what is. We're being told that that's something more ain't achievable. Shouldn't achieve it in the way that we feel we should achieve it. Shouldn't be aggressive. Shouldn't run after it. Shouldn't strive for it. Shouldn't move towards it. When it comes to being successful in life, when it comes to being a good dad, a good father, a good husband, whatever the case may be, let like Que Sera Sera, the old movie when they sing the song. What is it? The Lion King.
Yeah, the Lion King is Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata,
right?
Right. That's what we're taught to live.
Right.
We're taught to live just live each day. But don't do anything to make each day. And so and that is so aggravating to us guys. So I don't care who you are as a man, it will become aggravating to you.
And think about the progression that we live, right? It's so again, you look at society. When we were younger, neither of us are young anymore. I don't think it's a surprise to either of us. But when we're in college, the girls all wanted like the bad guy, right? Like you want to be the bad guy. You want to be the kind of edgy. Yeah. For me, it was like that grunge rock time, where it was like, man, you're not quite death metal guy, but you're definitely not listening to Boyz II Men. You're like in that Pearl Jam, Nirvana. You're in the little bit edgy. You want the guy with the motorcycle, with the fast car, but that doesn't get arrested, right? Like you just gotta have a little edgy, right? But then as you work your way through life and you end up, you get married or you get older, suddenly it's like you can't be that anymore. Right. That's dangerous, that's bad. You can't be that. But that's the person that you are. Or that's what I like about you, but now you can't be that. Now you have to be this soft, easygoing, person. As a guy, that's super confusing. And what happens, from what I'm seeing, is that somewhere in there, a lot of guys, and there's not everybody. There's some that I know who figure it all out. But I would even venture to say most guys. Mm-hmm. There's a break in there where they go, I don't know how to be this dangerous kind of edgy guy that you wanted before, and not be at the same time. And so there's just this that happens, this break, and you start to just kind of make it up as you go along at that point, because you don't really know what to do next. And for society and for the women, they're like, figure it out, dude. You got to figure this out. I'm not going to figure it out for you, rightfully so. Mm. But most guys can't. We can't figure it out on our own. And that's where we just kind of get stuck. Right. And you see, the result of it, right? What is the result in society that's happened over the course of that, right? You and I talk about it all the time. what's the fruit of that, right? As the Bible calls it. Like, well, what is the result of that? And statistically, you were saying some things that you were pulling up, right? And what is the result?
I mean, the result of that. I mean, this is what's so. It's so right before our eyes, and this is what I think. This is what I think is such a. It brings such conflict to the design that God created us men to be, because we can't look at our world and not see what's going on, and then choose not to participate or to make it better. It kills us,
right? Because
we're here for that reason,
mm-hmm.
and that's where we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men living in that space, like you're saying, of, well, I know there's something I can do, but I don't think I should. And then if I do it, it's going to piss somebody off, or someone's going to be mad because it's my opinion. And everything inside of us, like, I've been saying for years, and John Eldridge has always said, we're born into a world at war.
Right.
And this is the proof. I mean, there's a father absence crisis in America. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 18.3 million children, 1 in 4, live without a biological step or adopted father in the home.
1 out of 4.
1 out of 4.
No father in the home.
Consequently, there is a father factor in nearly all social ills facing America today. The U.S. Census Bureau in 2020, living arrangements of children under 18 years old, 1960 to present Washington, D.C. Census Bureau and all that kind of stuff. So that's where that came from. And then here's what's even interesting. The father absence crisis in America. When it comes to children, they are 4 times greater risk of poverty, or live in poverty,
mm-hmm.
7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teenager, more likely to have behavioral problems, more likely to face abuse and neglect, 2 times greater risk of infant mortality, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, more likely to go to prison, 2 times more likely to suffer obesity, more likely to commit crime, 2 times more likely to drop out of high school, just because they're in a fatherless home. These are the statistics.
That's the result of what the way men are in our society right now.
Yeah.
That's the result.
Yeah.
Nothing in there is any. There's no silver lining.
No.
Let's face it.
I mean,
there's nothing in there that makes you go, but there's this. There's nothing.
And this one really rocked me. In the United States, there are more than 64 million men who identify themselves as being a father. Out of that figure, only 26.5 million men are a part of a home where they are married to a spouse and have children under the age of 18 living there.
That's less than half. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Right.
And so these are I could read off other statistics about suicidal rate of children because they're living in their fatherless home. I mean, it's every statistic, every scientific fact, every sociological fact. When it comes to the nature of children, they decline in all areas when there's not a father that's spending the time with their kids in their home. It's just
and how many of them? I mean, the one statistic you said in there was about teenage pregnancies are X amount higher, right? Like, how many of them repeat that cycle?
Yeah.
Like all you're doing is continuing this cycle, because you've got girls that grow up in fatherless homes that are becoming pregnant as teenagers, which means that there's not a father in that home, right? And then you've got boys that are growing up in fatherless homes that they don't. To them, that's the norm. That's the norm. That's what they're supposed to do is to be. They don't want to settle down and why? It's not what they were taught.
Right.
They don't know how to do it.
Right.
They don't. So even if they wanted to, they don't know how to.
They haven't seen it before their own eyes.
Right.
And that's why the other statistic that when you ask a child who they look up to, it's movie characters.
Yeah, Batman.
Batman. Spider-Man. Their heroes are no longer real.
Right.
It isn't their father. It isn't a policeman. It isn't a fireman. It isn't a teacher anymore. It's make-believe characters, because why? They don't see it happening before their eyes anymore. They don't. Right. There are not the men around that would cause a young boy to go, "I want to be like you, Dad."
Right.
Just isn't happening.
So, again, the idea behind this man-to-man is to start to reconstruct that in the people around us, right? Is to begin to change with what we can control, which is ourselves. So, us and the other people that are part of this man-to-man, this building this, right? It's not just us. It's, there's a whole bunch of people that are involved in this, and we'll have them on the podcast too as we kind of go forward to meet the crew and introduce everybody. But first we committed to being different ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, I am going to end this in my life.
Right.
I am going to change. I am going to be different. I am going to approach life in a different way.
Right.
And frankly, for myself specifically, it was to go at it with intent. It's not just, I'm going to hope that things kind of turn it around, right? No, right. It's like I am going to seek out guys that are ahead of me in this process, or I'm going to seek out books, videos, podcasts, whatever, and I am going to ingest that, and then I'm going to put things into, I'm going to specifically do things differently. I'm going to make an intentional change in my life, and then I'm going to surround myself with other people that are doing the same thing, so that if I fall back a little bit, there's other guys going like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, we're going forward, so let's go. Let's do this.
Right.
And then in that personal decision, we've created this group of guys that are all moving in the same direction. And the byproduct of that was us looking around and going, how can we get more guys?
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so we looked around and we said, how can we get that? We can't. I mean, you were telling me the other day about the crew out in South Dakota feeling the same way, right? Like, or North Dakota feeling the same way. Like I can't just do this with me,
right.
And I don't even feel like I can do this with just the 10, 12 guys that are in our core group, right? Or it's like just me, and then there's probably 5 or 6 of us that are in our core group, and then 10 or 12 that are in a little bit tighter group. Like, that's not even enough.
Right.
How do we take it further?
Right.
And so, like that.
Well, yeah, it's a classic example of the scripture that says faith without works is dead.
Right.
I mean, you can watch 155 podcasts about being a man, but if you're not doing anything or applying anything in your life, it's dead. It's worthless. I mean, I know a lot of people who can quote many different podcast leaders and speakers and all that kind of stuff, and their life still sucks. And there's a difference.
Right.
And this is what I think is happening, and I love what John says and what we've been saying is not every guy is gonna stick to the journey.
Right.
And we've had guys over the last years that have, I can't say fallen off the map, but they whether it was life choices or whatever. I'm not saying they're all bad.
No.
But they're just not a part of what we're doing at this point in time. But literally, when you see the effect and when you've experienced it yourself, you can't help but invite other men to it. You just can't. It's innate. It has to happen. And I think that's what makes us different. I think not only is God moving on the heart of men, I believe that He's moving in such a way that even unbelievers, our guys are going, boy, man, I got this Wildcat Heart book, and I started reading it, and I showed up at an event which happened in North Dakota. Actually,
that's awesome.
Almost half of the guys that went to that event were invited by anybody. They just happened to stumble across Wildcat Heart or one of John's podcasts or his website, saw that there was an event in the area, and thought, I think I'll go. And I can tell you, because I talked to these guys, what God did in their life, and I don't even know if they're believers in the beginning or not. So God is definitely on the move and stirring up the heart of men, and this is just one of the areas that I think men are going, this is what's going to make an impact in my world, right? So
in part of the issue that we've noticed, I've noticed, and I think that you have too, is that what do you do, right? Like what? I think there's a lot of guys feeling this way, but then the question is, but what do I do with that, right? We're busy. You got life to live. You got stuff you got to do. Just doing this took us how many weeks, months, right, to put this together.
Right.
Like the last time there was a freaking snowstorm.
Yeah.
on the
Last
day we were
week.
supposed to
Last
do
week.
it. Yeah, like earlier this week actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it was like
Tuesday. or whatever.
we, you know, I mean, everything is coming against doing these things, and it just continues to make it harder and harder.
Right.
And so guys are just like, it takes a lot of effort to actually do this. So like, what do I do? What do I do next? And that's where, to me, it's important that we give them a place to go to where there's guys already doing it. Yeah. We're walking this path. And again, by doing it, I don't mean like there's some 17 step. This is not a 7-step program. This is like let's commit to going down this path, and then we're going to figure it out. Right. We're going to find somebody who's 3 steps ahead of us, and we're going to pull from them how they made it through where I'm at right now. You know, I say to my son, you know, he's 16, and he comes to me and he's like, Dad, you know, I don't know what to do here. And I'm like, you know, buddy, you're the first 16-year-old I've ever raised. And so I don't know how to do this either. Right? So let's figure it out. Right. And that's okay. Right. It's okay to be there.
Yeah. And when you think about that very thing that you said, the reality of, you know, I don't know what to do, but I know something has to be done.
Right. Yeah. You know, we're not going to do is just sit here.
Yeah. I know something has to be done. That's how God designed us.
Right.
He didn't design men to know everything and have all the answers like we said earlier, but he did design us to find it, to find the answers. He did design us to not stop. He did design us to take on the challenge. He did design us to move forward. You know, all those things. So realistically, that's supposed to cause us to be excited about life, not cause us to step back and say, I'm not going to participate. No, the adventure and the story that we're in, that God has designed for us, is supposed to be epic. It's supposed to be confusing once in a while. It's supposed to make us strive. It's supposed to make us fight. It's supposed to make us think. It's supposed to challenge us. That's how he designed us as men. I mean, and so literally, when you start to experience these things, you no longer want to slip away. You want to add to. You no longer want to take a step back. You want to take 3 steps forward and create a future. And to me, that's what's so important about why we're doing what we're doing, is to have every guy experience that. And because the experience is way better than just intellectually discovering it from a book or a podcast. No, when you hear God say, "Free my men," it's going to cause change in my world. Right. Period. Right. Despite the adversity, despite the things that come against, and there's been a lot. That's one podcast that I'm sure me and Danny will do. Ever since that time, there's been a lot of attack of the enemy, trying to steal what we got, trying to steal what we regained, what we. As John said, what's been stolen, what's been lost, what's been brutally assaulted in our life.
I heard a guy say, the other day, I was listening to something or watching something, and he said that, you know, the Bible says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Mm-hmm. He said, but I think he's given up on the stealing. And it's the day that we're living in now, he's killing and destroying at a much higher level than he's stealing.
He's been stealing for years.
Yeah.
And he's stolen enough now to where he's got enough property.
Or he's just trying to kill and destroy now.
Because he has that authority.
Yep.
Because he's stolen so much from our lives. That's a great statement. That's pretty good.
It's crazy, and it also, you know, I mean, again, like what? So as guys, we're like, so okay, so what do we do, right? Okay. And that's what we're doing. So man to man's going to be. We're going to have events because in the end, we have to get guys in a place where you can pull them out of this world, and you can, you know, kind of. I mean, I feel like with me, it was almost like I like that shaking, right? Like that. Hey, stop, block out the noise, right, and listen. I have something that I want to tell you, and it was shocking, but at the same time, it wasn't. Now here's the answers, because I feel like sometimes we think that these experiences, these retreats, right? Like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get all these answers. It wasn't at all. It was like, I have something to tell you. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I have something to tell you. Right. What is it? That I have something to tell you. And I was like, what? Right. You know, and it was like, that was it. Yeah. It was like God was trying to tell me that he had something to tell me. Yeah. And so from that point on, now I'm like, what is it? Right. Like, what is it here? Yeah. What is it here? What is it here? Yeah. You know, and it's this constant like, okay, then I'm listening. then you tell me what you have to tell me. And that's the event. Was it allows you to kind of get shaken off of your norm, right? You step outside of your norm and you just become the ability to hear and to listen and to accept.
Yeah.
But it's not that's not the point. The point is then what happens after.
The point is, it's actually the catalyst to your story. It's a catalyst to your change. It's not something that's supposed to invent and end. It's actually carry you through for the next 10 years of your life.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've always said this: what informs you forms you. Mm-hmm. And these weekend events takes you out of what usually is informing you. Your cell phones.
Yeah.
Your
the TV
email,
and
the TV
work.
And literally, I really believe, if we took 50 guys in a camp and had them just not look at their cell phones, that'd be enough.
Yeah, I know. I think there'd be a lot of stuff that come out.
Oh, they'd be hearing things they've never heard before.
Right.
I mean, I'm being totally serious. You can ask any guy that's been to one of these events, and the biggest transformation that started everything that happened to them, or the biggest catalyst that started everything that happened to them, was the reality that they couldn't look at their phones.
Right.
Not only does it show you your dependency upon it, your want to get the information, see who's saying what to who and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, the reality of what you're listening to all the time that you don't even realize. Oh my gosh.
So that's the start. Are these events like that's what we have a lot of it. We're going to do a lot of events to try to shake people out of their way of thinking and to start to build the basis for new ways. But then, like, this is a journey. I had somebody ask me just a couple days ago, like, do you feel like, the question was posed to me, like, do you feel like you've dealt with your anger issues, right? Like, so, you go back 3-4 years and, and I was probably a little bit angrier person, probably, right? Like, I was an angrier person than I needed to be. Like, right. I did not deal with anger well. And anger in itself, I realize, is not a completely terrible thing. It's how that anger is expressed to other people and how it plays out in my life. I was not good at dealing with that. And so the question proposed to me was, do you feel like you've dealt with that? And, immediately inside of me, I wanted to be like, heck yeah. I haven't been angry in like 8 to 12 months. And I could honestly say that. I could honestly say that I have not been like verbally,
awesome.
like aggressively angry in 8 to 12 months. I think I don't even know the last time where I was like outwardly, like anybody else would have looked at me and said, dude, you're angry, right? I can't even think of the last time. Right. That's how long ago it's been. So I can honestly say that. But when that question was asked to me, like, do you feel like you've dealt with your anger? The answer that came out of my mouth, which I don't even know why or who was speaking, because I do know. It was a different person than would have said anything 2 years ago. It was no. I'm not going to ever arrive.
Right.
That is part of me. That is me. That is part of what makes up me. Everything in the 46 years that I've been alive, that makes up that response in me. And so I'm never going to just be like, I'm done with my anger issues. I have arrived at the pinnacle of non-angerness, right? No, it is a constant journey that I am taking where I'm not even 90% of the time addressing specific. I'm not going to therapy to address my anger issues. Right. I did for years, or for a little over a year. I went to therapy to address those issues. Right. But I'm not anymore. But I'm still not slipping back into that because I'm walking this path where that isn't something that comes out of me anymore. And I will. It's not like an arrival though. It is a journey that I'm going to be on. Right. Again, not to not be an angry person, but a journey to be a more well-rounded person, to be a better husband, a better father, a better man, a better son, right? To my parents, a better friend, all of those things that the issues that I dealt with, it just doesn't. It's not part of that anymore. Yeah. And it's so.
And I mean, the scripture says. The Bible says, don't get too comfortable lest you fall.
Right.
Don't get to the point where you think you got it taken care of, because you got to remember. And we'll like I say, when we do these podcasts, we'll talk about a lot of these things, but you got to remember the enemy never gives up on using something that worked in the past.
Right.
He's like, oh, yep, Dennis, you've got the right scripture verses, and yep, you pray a lot, so you got me beat. No, he turns it up even more.
I'm out of here.
If you've had anything, any type of problem, any type of thing that you constantly are in battle with, no matter how free you feel or how free you get, the enemy's going to try to reintroduce that into your life. Right. It's just part of his plan, and I got a whole teaching on that. But and so that's why it has to be a journey. That's why it's got to be. And what I love about God is He's omniscient. He's all-knowing. He knows everything. Right. So even when you think you've arrived, He opens up a whole new door to a whole new spectrum of things that you've never even figured out or never even heard of before. Right? I mean, He's just that way. Once we think we have Him figured out, He just opens up another avenue. Like, I had no idea, not even close to figuring you out. Right. And once again, though, that's supposed to make us excited about following God, not shy away from following God. But that's why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, is we want to see more men excited about doing life instead of just trying to take life on. Mm-hmm. Instead of just trying to let life take them on. We're trying to get men to the point of where their excitement in their walk with God is so strong that the biggest adversity can come, and it can be painful, and it can be hard, whatever. But the point is, they don't have the give up attitude.
Right. Yeah, it's like we talked about. Yeah. We've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, right? It's like it's burn the ships. Yeah, right. It's like literally, we're like, hey, this is I can't give up on it, right? Again, somebody asked me the other day, like, has anything changed in a certain thing that I'm dealing with, right? It's like, has things changed? And I'm like, no, because it's not even an option. Giving up is not an option for me. I can't.
And how that played out, just actually, I didn't know if we were going to go here or not, but just how that played out 2 days ago at work. I mean, I just told Dennis a little bit ago. What we mean by it is this. This is how simple and complex this is. I'm working at Chick-fil-A at this point in time, and I'm have a headset on, and I'm taking orders for the drive-thru, and it's like this. We got to run people through there every 3 minutes. Bam, 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 bam. And I'm telling you right now, we had a day filled with. I'm just gonna be honest. It was like every stupid person in the world came through Chick-fil-A. Every mean person, every illiterate person, every person that couldn't speak English, every type of person that could make your day just suck came through that day. And I'll never forget, it was about 11:30, and I'm like, because this was happening to the other girl that was doing the headset, this was happening to the people that were taking care of the counter, and you could feel it in the room. Everybody's getting frustrated, everybody's getting upset, everybody's getting angry, they're starting to be short with each other, and I was like, that's it. He's like, that's it. We're choosing joy. From this point forward, we're just going to choose joy. We're going to be happy. We're just going to be happy. And everyone looked at me like I was an idiot or freaking out. But I'm like, I'm just like, I'm going to choose joy. And then all of a sudden, my boss, Kelly, walked up to me because I told him earlier, I was like, you got to pray for me, man. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated. And I'm the adult in the room. If you don't know about Chick-fil-A, it's a lot of teenagers that are there. Yeah. And so I'm supposed to be the example in some way, shape, or form. And Kelly walked up to me. He goes, "Hey, Mike," he goes, "I'll take you off a headset. I know it's frustrating you, and I'll put you as a runner." And I'm like, "No, right? I'm not opting out of this, right? Just because it's hard, just because I'm frustrated. I know." And that's what me and Dennis are talking about. Even in those little situations like that, it's so easy to go, "Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go take a break and step away." And God wants us to step in those moments and say, "No, I want to reveal who you are in the midst of that situation." And I'm telling you guys, the next 4 hours, the whole place was laughing. We were listening to certain people, not laughing at. Yeah, we were laughing at people, but literally the attitude began to change. Why? Not because I did something, but because we all chose as a team that we're not gonna let this affect the way or who we are, and we're gonna choose joy. And I haven't laughed so hard at that job, and I've never laughed that hard. We were pee in our pants laughing. I think it was, but why? Because for me, anyways, I chose to continue it, step into it, not step out of it and take a break and go, "Yeah, it's too hard for me. I don't want to do it." And that's the killer of that, and that's what we do. We don't want them stepping out. We want them stepping in and creating their futures, not letting their past dictate their future. So,
and you're creating change, right? I mean, in the end, you're like, okay, I can either accept what's coming to me, or I can create change around me. Yeah. And you just start to create that change. It is an effect. I mean, it does. It is a ripple effect that then, like you said, goes out to the people around you. And in the end, we don't know. You don't know exactly what that change does, right? And you don't know what the end result. You know what the end result of giving up.
Oh yeah.
And we read the statistics. We know what the end result of giving up and taking a step back and allowing the world to overwhelm us. We know the end result of that. What we don't know is the full result of stepping into it, because it ripples out, right? I mean, you don't know the effect that has on the people around you, or the customers, or the people in general. I mean, there's so many examples of things that we've seen in the last couple of years where, doing small things, making a decision to let somebody come to basic at the last minute, right? When we were like, well, but we have to have a head count, and we've got all this planning going on, and we've got to let the camp know, and blah blah blah. And somebody last minute is like, I want to come, and and half the group is going, like, I don't know, we already said we were going to cut it off. We can't just leave it open. And and you were like, no, man, we're like, somebody wants to come, we're going to let them come. Right. That Nick is amazing.
Yeah, if you know Nick.
I mean, he's just, I'll drop his name, I don't care. He's great. Nick is like, I can't be around Nick enough.
Yeah.
The dude is like, just saying Nick makes me like get warm and fuzzy and smiley, right?
Hug each other, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like, that dude is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
He is a great guy. I would hang out with him anytime he asks. Yeah. When he talks, I shut up and listen. Yeah. And like, he is a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, making decisions to just lean into it and be like, hey, you know what? We're gonna press forward, and we're gonna figure this dang thing out, and we'll find a bed, we'll find some food, we'll figure it out. I don't care. The payoff is like, holy crap.
Unbelievable, because God is going to honor your steps.
Right.
I mean, He's going to honor the steps you take towards Him, and if that means you have to give up a couple days of work, He's going to honor that by somehow, some way, orchestrating more finances. He's just that way. He doesn't want us to sacrifice and then not see the results of our sacrifice. He's one that wants us to see what happens when we sacrifice our time and our life for Him, so that we can become better men, so that we can become stronger, and it plays out consistently in our lives. It doesn't mean that we're never going to have struggles.
No, you might have more.
Exactly, you might have more struggles, but the point is that we're battle ready, and we're stepping into the battles because of the foundations that these things that we're doing bring. And I'm telling you guys, for those of you that are listening, Dennis and I have been a part of, I don't know how many basics now, help lead,
good amount.
I've helped lead probably 6 or 7 of them now, 3 becoming a Kings. And I may be there as a leader, but if I sit in a session, I'm still getting rocked. Right. Once again, I haven't arrived, and we never will. And I believe, to be truthfully honest with you, I believe as soon as you start going through these things and nothing happens, you're just becoming prideful in an area of your life, and you need to be careful. I mean, that's just my,
You're buzzing.
My wife's calling me. She must be on her way home. She always calls me on her way home. And so that's why it's so important when it comes to, what we're coming across to everybody here, and the fact of this works. In fact, I just heard a quote the other day say, if you want something to work it in your life. Mm-hmm. This works. If you're willing to give up what you're doing now and sacrifice a little bit and show up. I mean, everybody knows the whole statistic about 90% of being successful is showing up. Mm-hmm. And experiencing it yourself. And yes, some guys may experience it and go on and lead incredible lives, and then there are other men like us that are experiencing, like, we need to get every single human guy that we know into this experience.
Right. And both of them are okay.
Yeah.
Guys that experience it and then go, hey, I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to apply it in other areas of my life, and thank you and whatever, great. But for those of us that are like, hey, I need somebody around me. Yeah. Like, that's what this is for. This is to engage this conversation.
What was the statistic that we just got from Wild at Heart about the number of people? Number of guys. We just got a text from somebody. I think it was. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, in the last year or 2 years, the message has gone out to more men in the last year to 2 years than it's gone out in the whole 17 years of him doing this ministry. Prior. That just goes to show you what God's doing in our world to men. I mean, the reality is, it's just real. It's true.
Yeah.
So.
It's time to do it. So that's what Man to Man is, and we're excited to do it, and I'm excited. I can't, like, I I don't know where it's gonna go. Frankly, I don't even have. It's always this. Well, you gotta have vision. No, man. Because why? Why would I? God has a vision for this, right. And so why put my vision on it, right?
Right.
I mean, that kind of seems silly. If we have the choice between, okay, let's see what God's vision is. I mean, we have plan.
We have a part of the story.
We have a plan, and we're gonna walk out our part of the story. But what comes of this is, I mean, I'm excited. I think it's cool. It's the thing that gets me stirred up and going. And it's here's the best part of all of this is I have 2 sons, 13 and 16 right now, and it's affected them. Mm-hmm. Like they are. Josiah, I picked him up from school today, my oldest son again. I'm dropping his name, and he's gonna, now he's gonna be like, Dad, shut up and stop talking about me. Whatever. Your friends don't watch this, you'll be okay. And even if they do, good for them. He got in the car. I went to pick him up from school today because his car's broken, and so it's a whole, he's 16, his car's broken. That's a traumatic experience, right? It's like losing your best friend for him. And so I went to pick him up from school, and he got in the car, and he's, I'm like, what's up? 16-year-old, just not engaging, he's just down, he's out, just I had a terrible day. I'm like, all right, well, tell me about it. And he starts telling me about the day and how terrible it was. And it started out super negative. It was, everyone has got problems, everyone's this and that. We had a 15-minute drive home. By the time we got home, it was laughing, joking, talking about what we're going to do this weekend, talking about, him talking about going to work tomorrow. I mean, it was just like this. It took about 15 minutes for him to work his way through this. And I just know that 2 years ago, that car ride would have gone way different. Mm-hmm. It would have been, what's your problem? Why don't you just knock it off? Suck it up. It's, this is life. You gotta figure it out, and it's just this path that we've started walking has just changed the way my kids even are experiencing life. Yeah. And so this whole thing, it works. I mean, it works. It just does.
And this is the cool thing, for those of you that are watching. This is the cool thing. All right. When Dennis says, how it's changed and affected his relationship with his sons and stuff like that, I've been able to watch that over a year.
Yeah.
So when he says that, I'm like, really? How? No, I've been a part of the experience of him changing, and me and him having conversations about the conflict he has with his son, and then seeing the results. Mm-hmm. That's what's so awesome about this ministry. That's why I know this is a movement of men. It's not even. That's why I can't even say ministry. It's a movement of men. Why? Because shared experiences will always help me to grow in my own experience. For sure. So, and he's not just saying that. Now I've been a witness, and 10 other guys that go to a year with the men have witnessed the change in him when it comes to how he approaches his sons. And so to me, that's how it's always supposed to be.
Right.
That was the design in the first place. Mm-hmm. We were never supposed to be alone. We were never supposed to be in our own little story. No, He teams us up with other men to be in the story with us so we can share experiences.
Right. Think about, I was laughing about this the other day. I went and I watched the first 2 episodes of the next season of The Chosen, the TV show around Jesus' life and his disciples and everything with my son. And the end of the second show or something like that, it's the disciples getting ready to, Jesus paired up these disciples. And he had these 12 disciples, right? And he's like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pair you guys up. And then I'm going to send you out. And these guys are like, what are we going to do? And, and he's like, well, you're going to do miracles in my name. And they were just like, we don't know how to do any of this. And he's like, it's cool. You'll figure it out. Right. And he didn't send them out. Think about how much more, you think about, well, efficiency wise, how much more ground could we cover if we went by ourselves? Nope. He said, you're going to be best paired up with somebody else. Oh, yeah. So they took the group of, the whole Jewish nation. He pairs it down into 12 dudes. And then he says, okay, now I'm going to pair it down into you and one other person. And you're going to go out and you're going to actually do this thing together with somebody else. It was never meant to be alone. It was never meant to be by yourself. No. It was never meant to be that way. Jesus himself, God on this earth, didn't do it by himself.
Right.
The first thing he did before he starts his ministry is start bringing other guys into it before he did it.
Yep.
You think God himself couldn't do it by himself? Of course he could.
Of course he could.
But he didn't. So,
So we're not supposed to be doing it alone.
Right.
And that's the other thing great about it is there's a reality that you can be tough and you can try to do things on your own. That's great, but there's got to be a point in the trying where you go, I need a guy like Dennis to help me with this, or a Rich, or a Lucas, or a Garrett, or a Jesse, or a, there's got to be that point. It's not that we give up trying on our own and just expect others to help us. No, that's stupid too. No, you got to try on your own and at the same time have a plumb line that says, I'm gonna need some help with this one.